Good morning, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mike Avery, here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio to record this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. And of course, I will tell you who's coming up on the show as this live stream progresses. From this Behind the Mic segment, I will also be doing the first segment of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. So you can feel free to stick around for that as well. Cliff, good morning. How are you? Hey, Craig, it was wonderful to see you and Michelle both at the Angler Quest Owners Tourney at Linwood Beach and then on Saturday. And then, of course, Monday in West Branch at the West Branch Country Club for the golf outing. Appreciate your support and your sponsorship of that event. I hope you had a good time. Uncle Johnny, same thing. Wonderful to golf with you and to see you in West Branch at the all outing. Thank you for your sponsorship of the event. We played pretty good the front nine, but then the back nine we fell apart. I'm blaming it on the weather because it got so hot and so muggy and so uncomfortable. But at least the rain held off because the next day or that night they got 3 inches of rain there and they closed the course on Tuesday. So it's a good thing we got it done early, right? Or got it done when we did. What else is going on? Cicadas. I've been hearing reports. Hey, Bruce, good morning. How are you? Appreciate you joining us. Reports of cicadas buzzing across the state. Why is that significant? Well, I don't know if it's significant at all, but it certainly is interesting. You know, the old saying was that, yeah, Kevin's with us. Kevin Hannis, superintendent of the West Branch Country Club, says we're back open. It was Kevin who suggested that we do the outing at the West Branch Country Club in the first place. And Kevin, I appreciate that because that was a great move. You guys, Tom, everybody at the course were just absolutely wonderful, and we certainly do appreciate it. So it's glad you're back open. Okay, Captain JT Archbold. Good morning. I'm not working, so I get to join you this morning, getting ready to go to Manistee this afternoon. JT, thank you for also supporting the golf outing. Appreciate that very much. Sorry you couldn't join us. Maybe next year you can. But it was a wonderful event. Really very, very nice. Course was great. Facilities were great. People were great. Weather was great. A little hot, a little muggy, but I would take that over the rain that came later. Captain Mark Bonanzak says, good morning, everyone. Still recovering from the golf outing. I think I am too. I went home that night, Monday night, and my intent was to pour myself a big Maker's Mark. I think I got like halfway through it and I crashed. The preparation for the event, the excitement of the event, and then the heat and humidity, by the end of the day, I was ready to just crash. But anyway, Mark, appreciate you being there with us, and thanks for your support. James, good morning. How are you? Patrick checking in from Flint Truck. Morning, Joel. Good morning, Dave. How are you? Appreciate you joining us on this edition of Behind the Mic. I was talking about cicadas buzzing. The old saying is that cicadas, from the first time the cicadas start to buzz until the first frost, will be 6 weeks. Well, that would mean it's going to frost the middle of September, and it ain't going to frost the middle of September. Good morning, Jerry. How are things in Algonac this morning? Appreciate you joining us. It's not going to frost. We're not going to get a frost the middle of September. My dad, when he was around, and I started to document this, and it went more from, 6 weeks till the first frost to, more like 8 weeks. And then actually, you know what? It ended up being like 10 weeks from the time you get the first cicadas buzzing until the first frost. So whatever the time span is, I don't know, is it more important to look at it from the perspective of if the cicadas buzz early in general, do we get an early frost? I don't know. Probably. Paul, good morning. How are you? Thanks for joining us on this edition of Behind the Mic. Interesting. This is really good to know. Kevin Hannis says he will be joining MUCC. They did a great job. That's one of the pushes of MUCC. I mean, obviously, our event was to raise money for their youth camp because I want to encourage kids to get involved in the outdoors. But also, one of MUCC's goals for this year is to increase membership because the more members they have, the more political clout they have in Lansing and beyond. So, Kevin, I appreciate the fact that you're going to join MUCC now. That's wonderful. And they did do a great job. I put my name on it, I promoted it, I got it going, but it was MUCC who actually ran the event. And it only makes sense. It was to benefit them, but they did a great job. Steve Wyndham, everybody there, they did a great job. So I'm glad you're joining MUCC. I'm glad to be an MUCC member. And I'm not a joiner. I'm not somebody who traditionally gets involved in groups and such, but MUCC, I am a member of. Martin, good morning. How are you? Hey, Jim, how are you? Your son, Doug, as well as JT Archibald, who's in here earlier, or maybe still on, both donated walleye fishing trips as part of the fundraiser. So we appreciate that. Ryan, good morning. Chris checking in from Grand Rapids. How are things on the west side of the state? A beautiful part of the state. I grew up on the west side of the state, and I think it's wonderful. My my granddaughter now is going to be going to school at, she's going to be playing softball at Calvin. I keep wanting to call it Calvin College, but it's now Calvin University. So that'll give us, plus the fact my mom still lives on the west side of the state, that'll give us more reasons to go back there. Not that I need much of a reason. Who else is with us this morning? Jerry, good morning. How are you? Jim, nice to have you along with us. Ray, thank you. Hey, Brent, how you doing, buddy? Nice to have you with us. Jerry did a 2-year membership. Excellent. John checking in from Wolverine. Bill Lincoln. This is the guy right here. Bill Lincoln. Where is he? Right here. This guy right here. He says, good morning, Mike. Sorry I couldn't make the golf outing. Was in Canada fishing near White River. Well, that's a good excuse. Bill is the guy who got this whole ball rolling. We were doing a Wednesday night live, late winter, early spring, and I was talking about some of my goals for the upcoming season. One of them was to fish more, and one of them was to play more golf. And it was Bill Lincoln who suggested, hey, why don't you have a golf outing? I'm like, I never thought of having a golf outing. I don't think I want to have a golf outing. And then the ball got rolling, and it was talked about how an outing can be a fundraiser. And then I'm thinking, fundraiser, okay, well, all right. But Bill, you're the guy who got it going. I hope you had a great trip to White River. I am not going to White River this year to bear hunt with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters, but I will be back there again next year. James, I do enjoy MUCC automatically renewing your membership. Makes it so you don't have to forget. Good point. I don't think I do that. I should. Billy, how are you? John, nice to have you along with us. Kevin, always a pleasure. Jim, Captain Jim, how are you? Jim says, I attended the bear clinic last Sunday. I'm stoked for the season. Baiting starts in 15 days in Red Oak. Good luck to you. Have fun. I love bear hunting. I will be bear hunting. Even though I'm not going to White River on a bear hunt, I will be bear hunting in September in the Newberry district with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. Rick, good morning. Mark says, I've seen you on the golf course with your bride on Sunday afternoons. I have actually played quite a bit of golf this summer. Not that my performance on Monday would prove it. I enjoyed it so much that I went out and bought a new set of clubs. My 30-year-old clubs needed to be upgraded, and I did. And I'm still getting used to them, and I'm starting to play them better, but not where I want to be. But is anybody ever where they want to be with a game of golf, Mark? Hey, I forgot to ask you, how you feeling? I see you had a bandage on. I hope everything's okay. Another guy I want to thank, Mark. He said, lots of fun Monday. Great job. I appreciate that, Mark, but I also appreciate your involvement in getting sponsorship from GFL. And I appreciate you and your son and your buddies being there. Always great to see you, my friend. You're a good guy. You're a good man. And it does not go unnoticed, but it was nice to see you. And hopefully, Mark, both Marks, Mark Pananzek and Mark Halston, hopefully we can see you back there next year. We don't have a date for it yet, but we will certainly go back to the West Branch Country Club because of the way they treated us, their hospitality, the food. The course was great, and I think it's actually a very, very good course to have an outing because it's it's challenging and fun, but it's not too tough to make it intimidating or overwhelming for casual golfers. Hey, I'm going back to you, Mark. Mark, not tomorrow, Monday morning, Friday morning, I'm golfing with my grandson Carter and my granddaughter Addison. Carter and that foursome of three kids and the one dad, they actually, when they recalculated the scores, they tied for first. How cool is that? Those young kids can really hit a ball. Okay, so going back to cicadas, will we have an has anybody else heard cicadas? First of all, I've had 2 reports of cicadas from different parts of the state. Has anybody else heard cicadas yet? Tim checking in from South Florida. I can't believe it's much warmer in South Florida than it has been in Michigan lately. Tim, how you doing? Hey, Sherry, how are things in Poseyville? Torn meniscus. Yeah, yeah, the golf game is never and see, that's one of the reasons why I've actually fallen back in love with golf is you can never master it. You can get better. You can have good days, you can have bad days. It's like fishing, isn't it, Mark? You can never master fishing. You can only strive to get better at it. Golf is the same way. You can never master golf, and it's such a mental game. And if you let it get to you, things just go downhill. And that's one of the things I love about it and hate about it too. Tommy, good morning. How are you? How's the family? Sherry says, yes, she has heard cicadas in Poseyville. John says he has not heard any. Jim says he has heard a few cicadas in Gladwin. Okay, so they're buzzing. If you weren't here earlier, the reason I brought it up with it was I love these old sayings, and the old saying is that from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until the first frost, it will be 6 weeks. Well, it's not, at least not in Michigan, because I've kept track of it. My dad used to keep track of it. And it went from 6 weeks to, well, 8 weeks. Well, you know what? More realistically, from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until the first frost is more like 10 weeks. Brent, what are you doing in Minnesota? Remind me, what are you doing over there? Kirk is here in Pawpaw. Hey, good morning, Lance. How are you? Lance, you haven't been up in my skinny water again, have you? Lance, I know you love to golf. If you can get a day off next year, I'd love to see you take a day off from golfing and a day off from fishing and join us for our golf outing. We had a great outing. And it was a lot of fun. We raised some money and we're off to a really good start. What else? You want to know who's on the show this week? I'm surprised. Family and fishing. 2 good things, Brent. Family and fishing. Doesn't get much better than that. Let me find my rundown of who's on the show this week so I can tell you. It's here in my paperwork. And here we go. Not saying? Well, okay, Lance, if you're not saying, just tell me how were the weeds? And I actually haven't fished for a while because of this golf outing, but my next fishing adventure will be I'm going to experiment with taking the front hooks off those flicker minnows like Doug Ward had suggested, like you had suggested. Morning, Michael. How are you? Robert checking in from Hope. South Shore Fishing Association Vets Day coming up this weekend. Have fun, Jeremy. Hi, how are you? Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. I want to check in with Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives. I'm telling you, that company's on fire right now. They're revamping the building. They've revamped the website. They've come out with new models. Chris donated a knife for our golf outing. I want to check in with him and then Chad Stearns of Jay's Sporting Goods. Lance, so you were in there. You were in there. I tricked you with that question, didn't I? Last time you were in there was weedy. But Lance, were there fish in there? And what was your strategy? Did you run beads or swivels ahead of your baits? Or did you just scale down the number of baits you ran and just keep swapping them and rotating them? Chad Stearns of Jay's Sporting Goods talks about the fact that the Jay's Sporting Goods Weber Outdoor Education Center is now open. Mike, good morning. Thanks for joining us. I do certainly appreciate it. In our second hour, a guy that I met last Saturday at the Angler Quest Owners Tournament, Jeff Trope. Lance was not pulling crawlers in there. I'm telling you right now, Lance was not in there pulling crawlers. I met Jeff Trope through Craig Plowman. Jeff was fishing with Craig at the Angler Quest Owners Tournament. Very interesting guy. I enjoyed my conversations with him. He is a charter captain on Northern Lake Michigan out of Leland. I've never talked with anybody who fishes out of Leland. So he's on the show. Then Steve Wyndham of MUCC with a debrief on our golf outing and plans for next year. And then I still don't have an Ask Avery question lined up. Mark, I wanted to use your question, but I haven't gotten an answer yet. So I'm still up in the air. Anybody have a question for me? Lance was not pulling crawlers. Lots of fish always run our bead setup. So what is the bead setup? Just a bead 3 feet in front of the lure, 6 feet in front of the lure? What is it, Lance? Scott, good morning. How are you? Jeremy says he was having his clients cast death jigs. Is that true? Craig says he's excited to hear Jeff. I am as well. We stopped by Rapid River on the way here. We were sad the GSP wasn't there to greet us. No. He was not running crawlers. How far above the bait do you run the bead? Good morning, Randy. How are you? And in our third hour, Captain JP, where does the info come from the DNR fishing report? Good question, but I can't get an answer for that before the show. Scott, why are grouse, pheasant, woodcock, and quail considered upland game birds and not just game birds? Another good question, but again, a question that I can't find the answer to between now and then. I need an easy question that I can answer off the top of my head. Hey, Lance. Can you join me at 10:50 for the Ask Avery segment? And the question will be, Lance, how do you troll in weeds? Floating weeds. What can you do to keep them off your line? Here we go. I knew you meant GSP, German short hair. I knew that. Good morning, Joy. How are you? Rubber band, crankbait. Yes, he can do it. Okay, so there, the Ask Avery segment. I've now filled that at 10:50. Well, we're recording it at 10:50. The last segment in the second hour about how do you troll in floating weeds and keep them off your baits. Lance, you're the guy. We will call you shortly before 10:50 and stay out of my skinny water, buddy. Well, okay. If you're going to join me on the show and bail me out, you are allowed 2 entries into my skinny water. And keep in mind, I do have I have surveillance set up out there. So I see everybody who goes in there. I run your MC numbers, even though I can't. I have access to people who can run your MC numbers, so I know who you are. Scott, good. How you doing? What does anybody think about the new changes for our deer hunting season in 2024? Bigger question is, what do you think of the NRC, the current people on the NRC? In our third hour, and I'm sure Richard P. Smith will have something to say on this, we'll talk about bear hunting, the NRC, and deer hunting regs. And then, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Miner. Thank you, Lance. I will look forward to that. John, are you doing the show, John? Yep. Ask Avery, put /Lance Valentine, and I will give you his number off the air because I'm not going to put, well, offline. Lance has actually posted his number online, but I'm not going to give it right now. 60 seconds. Okay. Wow. That went fast. All right, my friends. In just a minute here, less than a minute, I'm going to switch my focus from this behind the mic segment to recording the opening segment of this week's show. I will talk about, as you know, many of the same topics. I will reference the fact that it's now August. I realize as we're recording it, it's not really August, but when people hear the show, it will be August. Feel free to stick around. I will not be able to directly interact with you as we are right now. Lance, thank you again for bailing me out. Always appreciate that. And I'll be back tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Behind the Mic. Scott says he can't wait to hear about the deer regs. Well, you know what Richard thinks. He thinks the DNR and the NRC are full of it. Not always, but often. I shouldn't put words in Richard's mouth. Please disregard that. 7, 6, 5, 4. I got to start a timer and everything here. 2, 1. Blast off. Okay. So this is what I'm hearing, the opening of the show. I will be back tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. Again, thank you, everybody who joined us for the golf outing. It was a great success, honestly. I feel it was a blessed event. I was blessed to have you folks be a part of it. I'll talk more about that. I will thank everybody who was involved in the event to the best of my ability. We need to figure out how to make the NRC work. Exactly. We don't want to disband it. I agree with you, Craig. We just got to put the right people in there. Yeah, the golf outing, we lucked out because they got 3 inches of rain that night and closed the course the next day. All right, my friends, have a great day. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we kick off the month of August. Again, how does time go by so fast? How did it get to be August? How did the bulk of the summertime season pass us by so fast? I don't know. There's still time, right? There's still time to take advantage, to do the things you want to do, but don't keep putting things now on the back burner because pretty soon it'll be fall. Now, fall is a wonderful time of year. Fall is maybe my favorite time of year. But if there are summertime activities, fishing trips, camping trips, family vacations you want to sneak in before the kids or grandkids go back to school, now is the time to make that happen. One of the things that always gets my attention this time of year is when the cicadas start to buzz. Now, you might know them as cicadas. My granddad and dad called them tree locusts, but they're big, green, ugly things, and they start to buzz about this time of year. And why that gets my attention is the old saying, and in fact, I think this might have even been still, maybe even today in the Farmer's Almanac. From the time the cicadas buzz until the first frost, the old saying was, it will be 6 weeks. Well, that would mean it's going to frost in the middle of September, and that ain't going to happen. At least I don't think so. So, my dad and I, he's now gone, but when he was around, we kept track of it, and now I keep track of it as to how long it actually is from the time the cicadas buzz until the first frost. So it's not 6 weeks. It's not even 8 weeks. It's closer to, in my observation and in my records, it's closer to 10 weeks. But then the question becomes, okay, so what is the relevance, if any, of the cicadas buzzing? If the cicadas buzz early, does that mean there's going to be an early frost? If they buzz later, is it going to be a late frost? I don't know. It's not an earth-shattering observation, but it's an interesting observation and one that I kind of have been keeping track of. Have you been hearing cicadas buzz in your neck of the woods? Let me know. Send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Let me know what part of the state you're in and whether you have been hearing cicadas and what you think it all means, if anything at all. And by the way, I love these old sayings. I think they are based in truth. They wouldn't get to be old sayings if there wasn't a grain of truth. And you want to get to the most basic old sayings: red sky at night, sailors delight; red sky in morning, sailors take warning. That type of thing. I've been keeping track of these over the years. I have a blog that has many of these listed. I'm always looking for more. I will always give you credit. If you have an old outdoor or weather related saying you want to share with me, again, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I will give you credit and I will post it so we can kind of keep track of these, because you know what? We're losing. If we don't document these things, we'll lose them and nobody will ever remember them in future generations. I'd like to keep track of them. Been busy around the Avery household. The Angler Quest Owners Tournament was last weekend on Saginaw Bay. We had almost 40 boats. We had 200 anglers. The weather cooperated, the fish cooperated, and it was a great event. It was so cool to see that many Angler Quest owners all together in one place. Talking with and thank you, Linwood Beach Marina, for hosting this, and Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuis. Talking with the folks at Linwood Beach, they said, this is such an interesting group of people. They said, you couldn't get this many people together for a Ranger tournament, for a Lund tournament, for a Skeeter tournament, whatever. There's something about the Angler Quest and the people who run those things that it's just so very cool. We were hoping to see the new prototype Angler Quest, QUEST, but it's not quite ready, but it's coming. And to meet the guys who are working with Brad on building this new boat was very exciting and very cool. You know what else was very cool? Our golf outing. The first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp was held at the West Branch Country Club. And you never know with a first year event how it's going to turn out, what it's going to be like. But I'm going to tell you, it was wonderful. We had a great turnout. The weather held off. I mean, it was hot and it was muggy that afternoon, maybe miserably hot and miserably muggy. But that night, Mother Nature dropped 3 inches of rain on the course, and the next day they had to close the course because of flooding. So everything came together. The course was beautiful. The facilities were great. The accommodations were wonderful. We had a great turnout. Everybody had fun. The food was excellent. And I feel so blessed and so thankful for the folks who made this come together. And we will do this again next year, again, to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. I feel obligated to thank the people here publicly, on air and online, who helped make this happen. MUCC, when the concept first came together, when somebody first proposed, hey, Avery, why don't you have a golf outing? Because this all came about from a Wednesday night live. I was talking about my goals for the upcoming summer. I wanted to fish more. I wanted to play more golf. Well, a guy named Bill Lincoln was on a Wednesday night live and he says, Avery, why don't you have a golf outing? I'm like, I never thought of having a golf outing. I don't know anything about a golf outing. And then the conversation started, you can raise money. These can be fundraisers. And I thought, well, if we could have a golf outing and raise money, yeah, maybe I would. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to be involved in a golf outing, it's going to be outdoor related. It's going to be something to raise money for the outdoors. I got thinking, what could it be? What could it be? Getting kids involved in the outdoors. Youth camp, MUCC. I'm already partnered with them. We'll raise money for their youth camp. I got in touch with the folks at MUCC and I said, are you interested in this? They said, absolutely. So I got to thank MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs, for partnering with me on this. They all got involved. They did a great job. Steve Wyndham was the guy who actually ran this thing. I put my name on it. I got it started and I promoted it, but it was MUCC who actually ran things behind the scenes. So thank you. Tom Hornbacher of the West Branch Country Club. The facilities were outstanding. The course was beautiful. The food was great. The staff was wonderful. Everybody there went out of their way to help us out, and we will be back there again next year. Security Credit Union, Northern Jack Pine branch of the National Deer Association. GFL Environmental Services, my buddy Mark Halston made that happen. Craig and Michelle Plowman, they stepped up to help out. Scott Keatson of Linwood Taxidermy. The Grillo family of Michigan Brand Meats. Jay's Sporting Goods, Primal Outdoors. Andy Weiss of Truck Trolley. A Forward Corporation, Lumberjack Restaurant, Gigi and Emil Russo. Rapid River Knife Works. Rec Broadheads, Alpha Media, Brent Schinkel, BAS Custom Rods, Trophies Africa. John and Debbie Craves, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they said, you know what, this sounds great. We're going to help sponsor the event. Thank you. Appreciate that. my brothers and sisters at my church, Trinity Monitor, the Athletic Boosters, and the Wild Game Dinner Committee both sponsored the event. JT Archibald of Fish Junkie Charters, Doug Ward of Express Charters, Jeff Trope of Leland Charters, Diebold Insurance, Yider Insurance, Heine Knob Vernon Insurance, Pizza Sam's of Midland, Whitmore Lake Rod and Gun Club, TJ Johnson Forestry, my neighbor Nick Sheet. I was walking around his house the other night and he said, Hey, Mike, come here. I got something for you. I heard you talking about your golf outing coming up and I got something to give you. It's just incredible how many people came together to make this happen, to raise money for a good cause. You never know with a first year event how it's going to turn out. But as this thing started to get steam and to get legs and snowball, it was obvious that we were on the right track, doing something people wanted to be a part of and raise money for a great cause. Thank you, everybody involved. I do greatly appreciate it. And we will have another Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing next year at the West Branch Country Club to benefit MUCC's youth camp. Details on that as we get closer. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, after the break, a guy who helped us with the event, Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives. That company, that UP company, is going crazy right now. They've got new products, new website, expansion to the building, improvements to the building. I don't know what's going on up there. I'm going to check in with Chris and find out. Then Chad Stearns of Jay's Sporting Goods, the Jay's Weber Outdoor Education Center / Museum is now fully open. We'll talk to Chad about that. In our second hour, a guy I met at the Angler Quest Owners Tournament. He is Jeff Trope. He fishes out of Leland. I have never talked to a captain who fishes out of Leland. I want to know about fishing Northern Lake Michigan, what it's like. Steve Wyndham of MUCC joins us with a debrief on the outing to talk more about that. Then this week's Ask Avery segment, a last-minute fill-in. Captain Lance Valentine jumps in to talk about how you troll in weedy areas. How do you keep the weeds off your bait? And in our third hour, Richard P. Smith talks bear hunting, the NRC, deer hunting regs for the fall, and more. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Glad you're with us. I hope you can stick around for the rest of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You were involved in the outing, and I did not thank you. I apologize. I think I had everybody on the list that I was directly dealing with. So thank you so very much. Jay, thank you for being there, man. It was a good time. We're going to do it next year. All right, my friends, I got to go. I've got to record the rest of this week's show. I will be back tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live, and I hope that you can join me then. In the meantime, have a great day.